In your sales life, you will hear no a lot more times than you will hear yes. The only person or the person who has the ability to build this trust is the founder. In the early days of your company, for instance, I see people who say, you know what, I am great at building, I'm not great at selling, so I'm going to go out and hire a salesperson. I believe that the first thing you need, even though some people believe the first thing they need is an investor. Before I start, I want to do a little bit of an activity. You guys have been here listening to AI this, AI that, and I was left wondering who is going to sell the solutions of the future. So if you go to the next slide, I have a little bit of an activity for everybody. You have only 20 seconds, right? So just turn to your neighbor right now, and in 20 seconds, sell them a pretend laptop. 20 seconds. Who's the timekeeper? It's time up. Who's doing the timekeeping for me? Okay. Time is up. Time is up. Time is up. Do I have your attention? Who bought a laptop? Who was able to buy a laptop? Can you please give me a mic? Do you mind? Just give him a mic. So, what did the seller use to get you sold on the laptop that you just bought?
So I've been using a jotter to take notes as people were talking. So he used that point to say you might want to have it digitally so you can get back to it anytime and have it on the cloud. So I was like, yeah, that's a valid point. I'm sold.
That makes sense, right? Thank you so much. All right. Did anybody use, what other emotions did anybody use to sell? Did anybody try to make you laugh? Or did somebody say, buy this laptop or I'll shoot you? Did anybody use violence? Okay, good. Well, that's a great example. So this is a great seller, right? Are you one of the guys that raised up your hand when they said, are there salespeople in the room? Oh, wow. So you were able to identify, analyze the situation, identify the problem, and provide a solution. That's basically what it means to sell, right? Skip 2 slides. Yeah, so why founders are why you must be a salesperson, right? Just like the person who introduced me said, most of the time, especially in the early days of your organization or your company, you will be the first port of call for anybody who wants to understand what you're building, see the value, and so on. So you as a person have the duty, and you can skip 1 slide, to be a great salesperson. And yeah, next slide, please. Right. And the reason why is that at the very beginning, right, before somebody understands what you are building, you have to sell the vision, right? You have to sell the outcome of what your organization is going to be. Funny enough, I have a personal website, and a lot of people in the ecosystem reach out to me and say, Shay, I'm building something, because apparently people think I have a lot of money and I know how to invest, but that's not the case. But, whenever I take these meetings and somebody comes into that meeting saying, I'm building a product or I'm building a solution that is going to do X, Y, and Z, I immediately go to sleep, right? And the reason is because he has not even painted a vision or created the future of what will happen after his company has created the building and the product. So he says here, employees, investors, or whoever, they don't buy into a product that they don't understand or care about. Just like the example that this gentleman did, he was able to analyze his current situation very quickly and say, I think if I gave you this product, right, you will become better, or your outcomes will be better because of the product that I give you. He did not immediately say, buy this laptop because laptops are cool. We have to move from a place of translating abstract ideas into emotional narratives, right? The only person, or the person who has the ability to build this trust, is the founder. In the early days of your company, for instance, I see people who say, you know what, I am great at building, I'm not great at selling, so I'm going to go out and hire a salesperson. Usually that puts you in a very, very difficult position. And that trust that you need the others or the people or stakeholders, investors, customers, and employees to have in the organization that you are building is going to have to be built by you. As much as we have identified the need for the founder to be the sales guy, or you need to be great at selling the company or selling the idea or selling your vision or selling the outcomes that you want people to have by virtue of using your product, all of your survival depends on how good you are as a salesperson, right? At any stage of your company. It could be at the very beginning where what you need is customers, right? I believe that the first thing you need, even though some people believe the first thing they need is an investor, I believe that the first thing you need is somebody who you are able to convince to pay you some money or some value or something in exchange for using your product, right? If you cross that stage of survival, the next thing is, how do I do this multiple times? And how do I get to the point where I can attract, for instance, investors to spur my growth or fuel my growth towards my next milestone? When you get to that milestone, your job again is to sell the future or sell the outcome of the kind of talent that you need to bring into the organization to work with you. Because people work for people and not just for the salary. The reality of being a great founder or being a great salesperson is that you are always selling. At no point in time do you go on break from selling, right? Both as a founder or as a salesperson. Your work is to sell the vision, the idea, the product, and the outcomes, and even what careers will look like if people work for you. It must become second nature for you to have value-first conversations. Most of the time when I'm leaving the office in my company, I'm going to a meeting outside of the office, and before we resume the next day, I'm going to go into the sales team or sales room and tell them, oh, yesterday night at this club or at this event or at this dinner, I met the founder of this company who wants to sign up to our product. So every time, even at social events, a lot of selling is happening. All those interactions that you have, both in formal and informal situations, are leading to how you can put the value of your product and what you are building in the hands of your customers. Next slide, please. Now, this is the second part of my conversation, right? You need a few skills as a salesperson, and please go to the next slide. That slide says key skills you need to be a great seller. Number one is storytelling. Unfortunately, Tomiwa already spoke about that in his fireside chat when he spoke about how great you are. You have to be at storytelling. And it just depends on whatever kind of story you want to tell or whatever method that you want to put to your storytelling. I use a lot of humor and relatability in my storytelling. I tell my stories in a way that my potential customers or my potential audience can identify with. Every time I tell them about the struggles of how much I have to buy fuel, how much we have to put in the diesel generator to run the office and things like that. And these are struggles that people can identify with. And then I find a way to connect that to my actual product or the outcome that I want to create, right? Number two is active listening. They say 70% of sales is listening, right? If you walk into a room trying to sell a solution or sell a product or to anybody, and 90% of the time you are the one speaking, it's unlikely that you are going to close that sale. A lot of selling comes from listening to the customer's pain points and positioning yourself in such a way that you can solve those problems. Yeah, number three says building rapport. Other people call it networking. When people say networking, it usually sounds very vague. What does it mean to network? How do I network? Where do I go to network, right? I call it building rapport because when you identify the kind of audiences or people who you can sell to, you need to be able to speak to them in a way that they understand. You need to speak to them in a way that they want to continue speaking to you. If you network and all you are doing is putting how you want to extract value from your contact in front of you and in front of the table, very soon the person will start trying to avoid you. But if you build rapport and talk to him about his own struggles, Try to find out where his problems are. Not every time request value immediately. It helps you become better at building rapport. Number 4 is thick skin. In your sales life, you will hear no a lot more times than you hear yes, right? In a sales training recently, I was asking somebody who said he's a great salesman that what is your conversion rate in your entire career as a salesperson? And he could not tell me. If you're a salesperson here, you need to know that. You need to know that in every deal that you've ever tried to strike, how many of them did you hear yes and how many of them did you hear no? If you are a great salesman, fantastic high-performing salesman, you have a conversion rate of around 20%. It's unlikely that you have an 80% or 90% conversion rate. If you have that, then you're not selling enough, right? Or maybe you're just a fantastic salesman that doesn't, like a superhero of sales. Moving on, number 5, you need to master the art of closing the deal. It's an art, right? When you are in these conversations to sell or to build rapport or to do your active listening and whatever, you must always remember that the cardinal point of this conversation is to close the deal. And if you find yourself in a situation where that is blurry, you don't know what is happening, you don't know what the next steps are, you don't know what the call to action is, you need to find a way to get there, right? Because it is both an action and a word. Both an art and a word and an action. Please go on. Next slide. Yeah. I want to move quickly through this because there's something I want to end with. How to sell anything. Of course, I've mentioned a few of these already. You have to start with why. Why should the person care? 2, you have to do what people call ICPs or buyer personas, right? You have to understand your buyers. If, for instance, you are selling enterprise solution like we do, you need to understand the genetic makeup of enterprise customers, right? You need to understand that they are gatekeepers who will eventually use your solution, and then there's the decision maker, and you need to understand how to manage the conversations across these people. Please go next slide. I don't want to spend any time on this. You need to understand the competition, right? And this is very important because we can spend a lot of time here. Most of the time, if you are selling a solution or a product, a lot of people focus on the competition. And this competition can easily be thought to mean another person that is selling the type of my product. But in many cases, it's unlikely that that's your competition. At PaidHR, our biggest competitor, even though those that are in industry will say it is this company, but our biggest competitor is Microsoft Excel or manual ways of doing payroll. That's our biggest competitor. We find that over 86% of the market is still doing the things that our software is supposed to automate. They are still doing it manually. So you need to be able to understand that and use that in developing what your sales pitch is. Please go next slide. I heard somebody say, Yeah, these last 2 things. Leverage the kill switch for objections. You need to familiarize yourself with how to navigate objections. If you've done all the other things that we've said well, you've told a great story, you've applied your own strengths to tell your storytelling, you are able to either lead with relatability or seriousness or whatever. You need to find how to navigate objections, right? Here it says your USP must solve a specific pain point. You need to turn features into feelings, and you have to prove it or lose it. All these are true, right? And if you follow me on any of my channels, for instance, on TikTok, I do this video series where I speak about how to classify your products, right? Your products can be a vitamin or a painkiller, right? But it does not mean that either of them does not solve a specific pain point. You need to be able to find what your USP is and communicate that as soon as you have the attention of your audience. And the last thing here is recognize when the sale has been made and shut the fuck up, right? You need to find in your sales journey when the sale has been made. You have to be emotionally intelligent enough to know that, okay, the value that I'm about to deliver has been recognized, and you need to switch that conversation back into the control of the buyer, right? Again, it's just an emotional intelligence play because people want to feel in control. Thank you. This is my last slide. I use the cell framework, and you can, take your pictures. It's basically see the world through the eyes of your audience, expose the problems, put the problems on the table, sell to the problem. Don't sell because your solution is great. Sell to the problem your audience is having. Lead with relatability. Let the buyer understand originally what you are putting in front of them. And lastly, lock the ask, right? Always remember to close the deal is the cardinal point of your sales. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for the session.
Hi.
Yeah, so I want to ask this question. As the founder of my company, usually I have been making the sales for quite some time. And then I got a social media marketer who started doing the sales, who was trained to start doing the sales. But then when I make the calls, for example, if I call, say, 10 people, about 8 people actually convert because it is Vicky that is calling them, the founder. But it's not the same with her, right? And we are getting to the point where I can't make so much sales as before. And we are looking to hire more salesperson. Actually, we did hire, another salesperson, but the person is not doing so well because they listen to me. And then if it's not my other salesperson that is coming, which they kind of know, they don't listen to the other person as much. So what do I do? Because it's actually a lot.
Yeah, I have a straight answer to that. You need to spend more time selling to your social media marketer, right? You need to be able to get her to the point, or him, where they sell with conviction, right? And it's a common problem, right? As you grow in your journey, it's not an instant thing, right? It takes time. So yes, a lot of the sales will still be made by you while this person is building up their conviction. You have to get them to the point where they believe in the product and believe in the solution that they are putting in front of their audience so that when they sell with conviction, right? So unfortunately for you, you have to find more time in your schedule where beyond just selling to customers, you're also getting your employees or your staff to sell with as much conviction as you do. Now, a lot of things, again, don't expect it to happen overnight, right? You will build the customer base faster, you will do your networking faster, you will do all those things faster, but spend some more time investing in how great this person is at selling your solution. And then some of that balance will start to shift, right? Where from 8 versus 2 to maybe around 4 versus 6. But you are still in the selling game for a long time, don't worry. There was one other question there. I can take that one before I go. Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deji. I run a company that builds workspaces for digital entrepreneurs and basically anyone that works from home. I myself am a salesperson, and I've also trained several salespeople. I'm actually hiring a salesperson right now. I'm in the process of doing that. So my question is this. What qualities do you look for in a salesperson? I mean, what is one thing you see in the first conversation with a salesperson that you can say, oh, I think this person is going to be a winner. This is going to be a superstar, right? And how do you transfer the sales knowledge that you have or that you've been able to gather over years into someone over maybe a couple of weeks or months where they get to the level that you want them to be performing at?
Yeah. I think the skill you should look for is intuition. The ability for that person to apply themselves to the problems in front of them. And you can create those problems right inside the interview, right? You don't need to, it's not a long thing. You need to look for how the person is able to think on their feet, especially in an environment where they don't know anything, right? I don't know how to build workspaces for people that work from home. But in the moment that I'm engaging you and you have enough conviction to want to come and work with me, I need to be able to see how you are able to think up solutions even without enough information. What that does is that when that person comes into your space or becomes part of your organization, they are able to soak up the knowledge really fast, right? If you have a multi-solution type of product, right, where you are selling different types of, let's say, features to your clients, intuition is what lets the salesperson know that if I don't win the customer with this value, I have these other hooks and these other things that I can use to bring them in until I deliver my cash cow. So I think you should solve for intuition in finding the salespeople because every other thing can be learned.